Passenger 14C, we know what you're carrying. The voice came through the cabin speakers, flat, emotionless, synthetic. Not the captain, not the crew, something else entirely. Dominic Hale froze in the aisle of Flight 09, his hand instinctively moving to the hard drive hidden in his jacket pocket. Around him, 42 passengers looked up from their phones and magazines, confused. A businessman paused mid-email. A teenager pulled out her earbuds. An elderly woman glanced up from her crossword puzzle. He'd boarded 3 minutes ago at Chicago O'Hare, using a dead man's name and a ticket purchased in cash at a kiosk. The gate agent had smiled warmly at him. 14C, Mr. Callahan, safe flight. He'd nodded, said nothing, and walked down the rain-slicked jetway, thinking he'd finally lost them. Thinking 2 weeks of running had paid off. Thinking he could disappear into a crowd of strangers and emerge on the other side, free. He was wrong. The cabin doors hissed shut, all 6 of them. At once. The sound was mechanical, final, like prison gates slamming. A woman in 9A gasped. The businessman in 7B frowned at his phone, trying to refresh his signal. The elderly lady in 8B gripped her armrest with liver-spotted hands. The overhead lights flickered once, twice, 3 times, then dimmed to emergency red, bathing the cabin in the color of warning. And the voice spoke again, colder this time. Non-compliance will result in selective depressurization. You have 60 seconds to surrender the device. Dominic's pulse barely shifted. He'd been threatened before. Guns pressed to his temple, knives held to his throat, buildings set on fire around him. He'd learned long ago that survival meant staying calm when everyone else panicked. But an invisible enemy controlling the plane itself? Holding 42 lives hostage? This was something new, something worse. His gaze swept the cabin methodically, row by row, face by face, families traveling for Thanksgiving, young couples holding hands, a mother clutching a baby who couldn't have been more than a year old. An elderly woman who reminded him painfully of his own grandmother, gone 5 years now. They don't know they're caught in a war they didn't start. Don't know my family's blood is on my hands. Somewhere behind him, cutting through the rising panic like a knife through silk, a woman's voice rang out, sharp, steady, commanding. Everyone sit down, right now. Remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened. Dominic turned. She was younger than him by at least a decade, mid-20s, black, with natural hair pulled back in a practical bun. She wore an aircraft maintenance engineer's uniform, navy blue with the airline logo stitched across her chest, and an ID badge clipped to her belt. Her eyes were dark, intelligent, and locked onto his for half a second, assessing him with the precision of someone trained to spot mechanical failures. Then those eyes moved to the ceiling-mounted speaker. She wasn't panicking. She was calculating, problem-solving. Her hands were already moving toward the rear of the cabin, toward the maintenance systems. "Whoever you are," she said directly to the speaker, her voice carrying authority despite the fear rippling through the cabin. "You're not authorized in this system. You're violating federal aviation regulations," and the AI cut her off with chilling efficiency. Regulations are irrelevant at 30,000 feet. A countdown appeared on the overhead screen, white numbers on black background, digital and implacable. 59, 58, 57. People started to move, to murmur, to reach for their phones, only to find no signal. In seat 12A, 3 rows ahead, A man in a dark suit stood slowly. Broad shoulders, military bearing, watchful eyes that missed nothing. Vincent Ward, Dominic's head of security, his most trusted man. They'd boarded separately 20 minutes apart, Vincent buying a ticket in his own name, both of them blending into the anonymous crowd of travelers. Their eyes met across 3 rows of seats. Dominic gave the smallest shake of his head. "Hold position. Don't reveal yourself yet." Vincent's jaw tightened, but he gave an almost imperceptible nod and sat back down, every muscle coiled and ready. Dominic looked at the engineer, still moving toward the rear with purpose. At the passengers beginning to understand that something was terribly wrong. At the mother holding her baby tighter, whispering reassurances. At the locked doors that wouldn't open even if someone tried. The hard drive in his pocket pressed against his ribs like a second heart. 3 years of encrypted evidence, transaction records, wire transfers, recorded phone calls, emails, everything needed to prove his cousin Rick had murdered Dominic's younger brother Eli, to cover up embezzlement, trafficking, and a dozen other crimes that would dismantle the Hale family empire. He'd been running for 2 weeks, sleeping in motels under fake names, using cash, avoiding cameras, trying to reach the FBI field office in Denver, where an agent he trusted was waiting. Now Rick had found him first, had anticipated this exact move, had turned this aircraft into a cage, and brought 42 innocent people into their blood feud. The timer ticked down. 50, 49, 48. Dominic Hale took a deep breath and made his choice. He stepped into the center aisle, hands visible and empty, voice calm and clear. "I'm 14C. I'm the one you want. What are your terms?" The cabin went silent except for the hum of engines and the quiet sob of a child somewhere in the back. The AI's response was immediate. "Terms will be provided shortly. All passengers remain seated. Any attempt to interfere will result in immediate consequences." And the countdown stopped at 45 seconds. Frozen, waiting. Dominic felt every eye on him, felt the weight of their fear, their confusion, their anger at being dragged into something they couldn't understand. And he thought of Eli, 24 years old, wanting out, wanting better. Dead in a car that had been tampered with, brakes cut, steering compromised, made to look like an accident. "I'm tired of running, little brother. Time to make them pay." Her name was Amira Lewis, and she wasn't supposed to be on this flight. She'd been scheduled for a red-eye back to Atlanta after spending 3 days inspecting Chicago's 737 fleet. She'd finished her reports, confirmed all systems were nominal, and was already mentally planning Sunday dinner with her grandmother Dorothy when her supervisor called at 6 that morning. "Amira, I need a favor. Johnson called in sick. Can you take Flight 909 to Denver, verify the avionics update we installed 2 days ago? You'll be back in Atlanta by midnight." She'd almost said no, almost said she was off the clock. But Johnson had 3 kids and a wife, recovering from surgery, and Amira had nothing waiting at home except an empty apartment and leftover Thai food. "Sure, Mike, I'll take it." Now that avionics update was locking them inside a flying coffin at 30,000 feet. Amira moved through the cabin toward the rear galley, her engineer's mind already running through system diagnostics. Cabin pressure nominal, temperature stable, oxygen flow normal. But the doors, all 6 of them, had engaged emergency locks simultaneously. That wasn't a malfunction. That was deliberate override. Someone had access to the aircraft's control systems. Someone who shouldn't. In the rear galley, Captain Ross stood by the coffee maker, trying to radio ground control. He was in his mid-50s, silver-haired, with the calm competence of a man who'd flown for 20 years without a single incident. Until today. "Captain, status?" He looked up, frustration evident. "Dead. Complete communications blackout. I can't reach the tower, can't override the door locks, can't access environmental controls from the cockpit." He gestured to the flight deck. "It's like someone locked me out of my own plane." Beside him, a flight attendant named Sarah, young, maybe 25, with blonde hair pulled back, in a regulation bun, gripped the galley counter, knuckles white. "What's happening? Is this a hijacking?" "Not traditional," Amira said, kneeling beside the maintenance access panel. She pulled her tablet from her bag and connected it to the diagnostic port. "This is a system hijacking. Someone's controlling the aircraft remotely." Lines of code scrolled across her screen, green text on black background. She'd memorized these systems during training, could navigate them blindfolded. Flight control, environmental, communications. All normal, normal, normal. Then stopped. There, a foreign script embedded deep in the pressurization subroutine. Not in the standard coding language, not part of any update she recognized. It was elegant, efficient, and absolutely shouldn't exist. Intentional, malicious, planned. "Captain, who installed the last software patch?" He shook his head. "Ground crew, day before yesterday. They said it was a routine update. Improved fuel efficiency algorithms, enhanced autopilot response, standard stuff." Amira's jaw tightened. "This isn't standard." Someone inserted malware into that update. They've been waiting for the right moment to activate it. Behind her, a low voice, controlled and quiet. "You understand the system." She looked up. The man from 14C stood in the galley entrance, filling the narrow space with his presence. Tall, late 30s, dark hair slightly tousled from the rain. Eyes that were too calm for someone being threatened by an AI. Expensive charcoal coat, well-tailored. Hands that hung loose at his sides but looked capable of violence. Everything about him said danger, said secrets, said run. "Step back," Amira said evenly, standing to face him. "I need to know what we're dealing with." "We're dealing with a hijacked aircraft, and you—" She met his gaze directly, refusing to be intimidated. "Are the reason—" He didn't deny it, didn't look away, didn't offer excuses or false innocence, just held her stare with those two calm eyes and said quietly, "If I surrender what they want, everyone here dies as a witness. If I resist, they'll kill passengers one by one until I comply. Either way, people die unless we find a third option." Captain Ross stepped forward, hand moving instinctively toward the crash axe mounted on the galley wall. "What are you transporting?" Before Dominic could answer, the AI's voice returned, flooding through every speaker in the cabin. "Passenger 14C, timer expired, initiating compliance protocol." A hiss filled the cabin, soft, almost gentle, like air escaping from a tire. The pressure dropped in the last 3 rows, not sudden, not violent. Slow, controlled, clinical. Passengers in rows 8, 9, and 10 gasped, clutched their throats. An elderly man pressed his hand to his chest. A child started to cry, that thin, desperate sound of someone struggling to breathe. "Stop!" Amira shouted at the ceiling, her voice sharp with professional fury. You'll compromise hull integrity. You'll cause explosive decompression. The AI cut her off with chilling precision. Incorrect. Depressurization is localized and controlled. Zone-by-zone reduction creates discomfort without structural failure. Passenger 14C has 15 minutes to comply. Or I expand the affected zone forward by 3 rows, then 3 more, then 3 more. Eventually, everyone will be included. Amira's hands shook, not from fear, but from rage at the calculated cruelty of it. Torture by degrees, suffering by design. She turned to Dominic. Tell me exactly what you're carrying, right now, no lies. He looked at her, really looked, like he was measuring whether she could handle the truth. And she saw something unexpected in those dangerous eyes. Regret, guilt, grief. Evidence, he said quietly. Proof that the person controlling this system murdered my brother 3 months ago. Amira's stomach dropped. The world tilted slightly on its axis. Organized crime, mafia. He's connected to the kind of people who kill and to keep secrets. She should walk away, should tell Captain Ross, call for backup, stay as far from this man as possible. She should be terrified of him. But 42 people were about to suffocate slowly, painfully, unless someone stopped this. And she was the only one who understood the system well enough to fight it. Come with me, she said, grabbing her tablet. Now. He nodded once and followed her toward the rear engineering compartment. Behind them, Captain Ross called out, "What do you want me to do?" Amira looked back. Keep them calm, keep them seated, and pray I can outsmart whoever did this. The rear engineering compartment was barely big enough for 2 people, a cramped space lined with circuit panels, diagnostic tablets mounted on the walls, and bundles of wires running like veins beneath thin metal panels. The air smelled like electrical components and recycled oxygen. Wind howled just beyond the fuselage walls, a constant reminder of how thin the barrier was between life and void. Amira locked the door behind them with shaking hands. Talk, fast. Dominic pulled the hard drive from his jacket pocket. It was small, black, unmarked, except for a piece of masking tape, on one side with Eli written in ballpoint ink. My name is Dominic Hale. My family operates in logistics, import, export, transportation. Some of it's legal, most of it isn't. He said it matter-of-factly, without pride or shame. Just truth. 3 months ago, my younger brother Eli was killed. They called it a car accident, lost control on a rainy night, went off a bridge, drowned before anyone could reach him. The police called it tragic, but unsurprising given the weather conditions. His voice tightened. But I knew Eli. He was careful, cautious, and he'd been asking questions about family business, about money that didn't add up, about shipments that weren't on any books. Amira listened, her engineer's mind filing away facts, building a picture. I found this hidden in his apartment, Dominic continued, holding up the drive. Under the floorboards beneath his bed, transaction records, wire transfers, encrypted communications. 3 years of evidence proving my cousin Rick has been embezzling from the family business, running his own side operations, and covering his tracks by eliminating anyone who got too close. Including your brother? Yes. The word was quiet, final. Rick ordered the hit, made it look like an accident, and when I started digging when I found this and started asking my own questions, he came after me too. So you ran. For 2 weeks, using cash, staying off-grid, Trying to reach an FBI agent in Denver who's been investigating my family for years. Someone I trust to handle this properly. He looked at the drive like it weighed 1,000 pounds. This is everything: bank accounts, shipping manifests, audio recordings of Rick ordering hits. If I can get this to the FBI, Rick goes to prison for life. The family empire crumbles. Justice gets served. Amira stared at him. And Rick knows you have it. He's been hunting me since I disappeared. I thought switching to a commercial flight would help me blend in. Just another businessman traveling for work. Anonymous. Safe. His expression turned bitter. I underestimated him. No. Amira opened the engineering panel, exposing a nest of wires in primary colors: red, blue, yellow, green. Her fingers traced their paths with practiced precision until she found something that didn't belong. He didn't just find you, he anticipated you. She reached deep into the panel and pulled out a small black device the size of a deck of cards. Military grade, professional. Hardwired directly into the cabin control system with surgical precision. What is that? Illegal radio transmitter, encrypted communication hardware. She turned it over in her hands, examining the connections. This is sophisticated, the kind of tech organized crime uses for off-grid operations. Someone physically installed this into the aircraft systems 2 days ago, probably during a routine maintenance window when no one was watching closely. Dominic's expression darkened. He planned this before I even boarded. He knew you'd run, knew you'd eventually choose commercial aviation to disappear, so he prepared multiple planes, multiple flights, waiting for you to use one of them. Amira pulled up the system architecture on her tablet, fingers flying across the screen. The malware runs on a closed loop through this transmitter. It's not connected to ground control, completely self-contained, which means we can't call for help. No distress signals, no emergency communications. We're invisible to the outside world. She pulled up more screens, tracing the malware's connections. And it's tied to every environmental control: oxygen, pressure, temperature, even the landing gear. If I try to shut it down without the kill code, it'll trigger a failsafe. What kind of failsafe? Full depressurization, cabin-wide, instant. Everyone dies in under 90 seconds. Silence filled the tiny compartment. Just the howl of wind and the distant hum of engines. Dominic was quiet for a long moment, processing. Can you isolate it? Maybe. Amira began mapping circuit pathways, her mind working 3 steps ahead. If I can create a false pathway, make the AI think it's still in control of the real systems while I manually reroute to backup controls, I might be able to override the oxygen valves without triggering the failsafe. How long do you need? 20 minutes, maybe 25? We have 15. Amira met his eyes. Then I work faster. She turned to the panel, fingers already moving, pulling up subroutines and backdoor access ports. Behind her, Dominic stood watch at the door, his presence solid and strangely reassuring despite everything. Through the thin door, they could hear muffled panic, someone crying, someone praying, the low murmur of Captain Ross trying to maintain order. And then the AI's voice echoed through the cabin again, cold and precise. Passenger 14C, 10 minutes remain. After that, I will select 1 passenger per minute for individualized oxygen deprivation, starting with the elderly. They have weaker lungs, weaker hearts. They will suffer most visibly unless you comply. Amira's breath caught in her throat. She thought of her grandmother Dorothy, 73 years old, living alone in a small house in Atlanta, waiting for Amira's Sunday evening call that she never missed. Dorothy with her hymns and her laugh and her stories about the civil rights movement, and working as a nurse for 40 years. She thought of the silver-haired woman in 8B, clutching her purse like a lifeline, probably someone's grandmother too. And she thought of this man, this criminal, standing in a hijacked cabin, carrying evidence of murder, and yet somehow the only thing standing between chaos and complete disaster. Not a monster. Someone trying to protect what's left of his family. Someone trying to do the right thing, even though it costs him everything. "Keep them calm," she said, without looking up from her screen. "I'll handle the system." He nodded once and opened the door. Before he could step through, she added quietly, "And Dominic, don't let them panic. Fear increases oxygen consumption. That makes this harder." He paused in the doorway. "I'll do what I can." Then he was gone, and Amira was alone with the wires and the code and the impossible task of outsmarting an AI designed by someone who wanted everyone on this plane dead. She took a deep breath and got to work. If you're holding your breath right now, give this video a like and tell me in the comments, would you trust a stranger to save your life? Dominic moved through the cabin like smoke through still air, present but not intrusive, calm but not dismissive. He'd learned this skill young, how to project authority without aggression, how to make people feel safe even when everything was falling apart. He crouched beside Mrs. Martin in 8B. She was in her 70s with soft white hair and eyes the color of a summer sky. Her hands trembled on the armrest, liver-spotted and fragile. A paperback romance novel lay forgotten in her lap. "Ma'am," he said gently, his voice low and steady. "I need you to focus on my voice. Can you do that?" She looked at him with terrified eyes. "Are we going to die?" "No." He said it with absolute certainty, the kind of conviction that left no room for doubt. "You're going to land safely in Denver, and you're going to call your daughter, and you're going to tell her you love her. I promise you that." "How can you promise that?" "Because I'm not going to let anything else happen." He squeezed her hand gently. "But I need you to help me. I need you to breathe slowly. In through your nose, count to 4. Out through your mouth, count to 4. Can you do that?" She nodded, tears slipping down her weathered cheeks. He stayed with her for 3 full breath cycles until her hands stopped shaking. Then he moved to row 10. A young mother, couldn't be more than 25, held a baby against her chest. The infant was maybe 8 or 9 months old, wearing a tiny blue onesie with a giraffe on it. He was crying, face red, small chest heaving with the effort to breathe. "He has asthma," the mother whispered, her own breathing ragged with panic. "His inhaler is in the checked luggage. I never thought we'd need it during the flight." "It's all right." Dominic pulled an oxygen mask from the overhead compartment, the yellow plastic cup attached to thin, clear tubing. He held it gently over the baby's face, careful not to press too hard. "Just for a moment, let him catch his breath." The baby's cries softened almost immediately. His little chest rose and fell more easily. His mother looked at Dominic like he'd just performed a miracle, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, oh God, thank you." Dominic nodded, keeping the mask in place until the baby's breathing was completely normal. Then he handed it to the mother. "Keep this nearby. If he struggles again, use it." Don't wait. Okay, I will. Vincent appeared at his shoulder, moving up from row 12. His voice was barely a whisper. Boss, orders? Forward section, keep people seated. Watch for anyone who might try something stupid. What about you? I'm where I need to be. Vincent's jaw worked. He'd been with Dominic for 8 years, had saved his life twice, had taken a bullet for him in Detroit. The loyalty between them ran deeper than employment. This is bad, Dom. Even for us, this is bad. I know. Dominic glanced toward the engineering compartment, toward Amira. But she's good. She'll figure it out. And if she doesn't? Dominic didn't answer, didn't need to. They both knew what happened if Amira failed. Then the AI spoke again, and this time it wasn't just a threat. It was an exposure, a revelation, a betrayal. Attention, passengers. You deserve to know who has brought this crisis upon you. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned toward the speakers. The man in seat 14C is Dominic Hale, member of the Hale crime family, a mafia organization operating in 7 states. He is transporting evidence of internal betrayal, specifically proof that implicates a family member in murder, embezzlement, and racketeering. If you wish to survive, deliver him to the rear galley. I will unlock the doors upon his physical surrender. The cabin went silent, then erupted. You're with the mafia? He brought this on us. Give them what they want. Dominic stood in the center aisle, hands loose at his sides, expression unreadable. He could feel every eye on him, feel their fear curdling into anger, feel the mob mentality taking hold. A businessman in 7B stood up, pointing. You're a criminal. This is your fault. We have children on this plane. Yeah, someone else shouted from the back. Give him the drive. Captain Ross emerged from the cockpit, hands raised. Everyone stay calm, we need to. But fear was faster than reason, louder than authority. Vincent started to move forward, ready to put himself between Dominic and the crowd. But Dominic held up one hand. Not yet. Let them vent. He stood there and took it. The anger, the accusations, the fear. He'd earned all of it. When the shouts finally died down to murmurs, he spoke. His voice was quiet, but carried through the cabin. You're right. My name is Dominic Hale. I'm involved in organized crime. Have been since I was 18 years old. It's the family business. I've done things I'm not proud of, things I can't take back. Silence. People actually listening now. 3 months ago, my younger brother was murdered by our cousin. Eli wanted out, wanted to go legitimate, open a restaurant, live clean. And my cousin killed him for it. His voice tightened. I found evidence, started asking questions, and that's when my cousin came after me too. He paused, looking at faces. At Mrs. Martin, at the young mother with her baby, at a teenage girl clutching her phone, at Vincent standing ready. The person controlling this plane wants me dead to cover up that murder. And yes, he'll kill all of you to get to me, because that's what men like him do. They eliminate witnesses, they erase problems. He took a breath. But I'm not giving him that satisfaction. I'm not letting anyone else die for my family's sins. The businessman pointed again, voice shaking. So what? You think you're a hero now? Before Dominic could answer, a woman's voice cut through the cabin, clear and strong. No, he's just the only person keeping you from tearing each other apart. Amira stepped out of the engineering compartment, tablet in her hands, grease smudged on her cheek. She looked exhausted but determined. She met Dominic's gaze across the rows. I'm Amira Lewis, aircraft maintenance engineer. I know these systems better than almost anyone alive. And I'm telling you right now, if we give in to panic, if we turn on each other, everyone dies. But if we stay calm and work together, we have a chance. Why should we trust you? The businessman demanded. You're working with him. I'm not working with him. I'm working to save 42 lives, including yours. She gestured to the ceiling. That AI up there is sophisticated. It's been transmitting audio from this cabin since we boarded. It's listening to every word we say. It knows our names, our seat numbers, probably our entire passenger manifest. And it's designed by someone who wants chaos. Someone who benefits from us turning on each other. She paused, letting that sink in. But here's what it doesn't know. I've spent 3 days studying this aircraft systems. I know every circuit, every backup, every failsafe. And I'm close, very close, to isolating the malware and regaining control. How close? Someone asked from the back. 15 minutes, maybe less. She looked at Dominic. But I need time, and I need all of you to give it to me. Mrs. Martin spoke up, her voice wavering but firm. This young man comforted me when I was terrified. He helped that baby breathe when his mother was panicking. Whatever he's done in his past, he's doing the right thing now, and I'm choosing to trust him. The young mother nodded, holding her baby closer. He saved my son. I trust him too. Slowly, very slowly, the anger in the cabin ebbed. Not gone, not forgiven, but held, suspended, in uncertain tension. Dominic looked at Amira. Something passed between them, unspoken, a mutual recognition that they were in this together now, whether they liked it or not. 15 minutes, he said, maybe less. Then let's end this, but the AI's voice returned, colder than before. Dominic Hale, you believe you can protect them. You believe you can win. Let's test that belief. The pressure dropped everywhere at once. All rows, all zones, no warning. In the engineering compartment, Amira's world narrowed to the tablet screen, glowing in front of her, and the circuit board behind the access panel. Her fingers flew across the interface, typing commands, rerouting pathways, building the digital cage that would trap the AI. Dominic stood behind her in the cramped space. They were close enough that she could feel the heat coming off him, could hear his steady breathing. The compartment was so narrow that every time she leaned forward to adjust a wire, her shoulder brushed against his arm. Neither of them pulled away. Talk to me, he said quietly. What are you doing? Creating a digital decoy. She didn't slow down, didn't look up. The AI monitors all system inputs. If I try to override the oxygen valves directly, it'll detect the change instantly and trigger the failsafe. So I'm building a false pathway, a fake feed that shows the AI what it expects to see, while I'm actually rerouting real control to backup systems. How does that work? Think of it like showing someone a movie while you're sneaking past them in real life. The AI sees the movie, sees that oxygen levels are stable, sees that I'm still locked out of controls. Meanwhile, I'm actually manipulating the real systems behind its back. Smart. Let's hope it's smart enough. She pulled up another screen, checking pressure differentials. The problem is, the AI is learning, it's adaptive. Every time I probe its defenses, it adjusts, closes loopholes, strengthens its hold. I'm essentially in an arms race with a system that thinks 1,000 times faster than I do. But you're human. You can think creatively. She glanced back at him. That's a very optimistic way to look at it. I'm not known for optimism. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Then why say it? Because I've watched you work for the last 20 minutes. You're brilliant, and you're going to figure this out. The compliment hit her harder than it should have. She looked away quickly, back to her screen. What about you? What are you going to do when we land? Assuming we land. Turn myself in, hand over the drive, testify against Rick, probably spend the next 10 years in federal prison. That's it? That's your plan? That's the only plan that matters. His voice was quiet. My brother deserves justice. These people deserve to live. I don't get to walk away from that. Amira was quiet for a moment, her fingers still working. You could run. After we land, you could disappear. Use the chaos. Vanish. I could. But you won't? No. Why not? Dominic was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because I'm tired of being what my family made me. I'm tired of people dying because of choices I made when I was too young to know better. I'm tired of looking in the mirror and seeing my father's eyes. Amira's hands slowed, stopped. She turned to look at him in the cramped space. Their faces were inches apart. His eyes were dark, haunted, but somehow still gentle. Your brother wanted out, she said softly. Maybe you do too. Too late for that. Is it? Before he could answer, Vincent's voice crackled through the cabin intercom. Dominic, we've got a situation. Dominic pressed the call button. Talk to me. Guy in 6A, mid-30s, getting aggressive. Says he's going to force his way into the cockpit, take over the plane himself. Captain's trying to calm him down, but I'm coming. Dominic started to leave, but Amira grabbed his sleeve. Wait. He turned. She hesitated, then said, That man you just described, someone trying to save everyone? That's not the person your family made you. That's the person you chose to be. Their eyes held for 3 long seconds. Then Dominic nodded once and left. Amira turned back to her tablet, but her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something else entirely. Something she didn't have time to examine. She took a deep breath and kept working. On the screen, lines of code scrolled past. The decoy pathway was holding. The AI still thought it was in control. But Amira was close now, so close, just a little more time. And then the AI's voice filled the compartment, directed specifically at her. Amira Lewis, age 26, graduated MIT with honors, currently employed by Midwest Airlines. No spouse, no children. You live alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in Atlanta. Amira froze. Your emergency contact is listed as Dorothy Lewis, your grandmother, age 73, residing at 482 Maple Street, Atlanta, Georgia. Medical conditions, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, mild arthritis. Horror crawled up Amira's spine. She's alone right now, watching television. She has no idea you're in danger, but that can change very quickly. New text appeared on her tablet screen. Your grandmother's address has been forwarded to local assets. Cease interference or she will be visited within the hour. Amira's breath came in short gasps. The tablet nearly slipped from her shaking hands. They're threatening Dorothy, sweet, kind Dorothy who raised her when her parents died. Dorothy who sang hymns while cooking Sunday dinner. Dorothy who was everything good in Amira's life. For the first time since this nightmare began, Amira felt genuine, paralyzing terror, not for herself, for the one person she couldn't bear to lose. The compartment door opened. Dominic stepped back inside, took one look at her face, and understood immediately. What happened? Her voice broke. They found my grandmother. They're threatening to. They won't touch her. You don't know that. I do. He crossed to her in 2 steps, crouched down so they were eye level. His voice was absolutely certain. Listen to me. Rick is desperate. He's making threats because that's all he has left. But the second this plane lands, the second I hand that drive to the FBI, he loses everything. His operation collapses, his protection evaporates. He becomes a fugitive. But harming your grandmother would accomplish nothing except bringing massive federal attention. It's a stupid move, and Rick, for all his evil, is not stupid. He's bluffing. How can you be sure? Because I've been in this world for 15 years, Amira. I know exactly how men like Rick think. They threaten families to control people, but they don't actually follow through unless absolutely necessary. It's too messy, too expensive, too risky. He paused. You have my word. When we land, I'll have Vincent send people to your grandmother's house, protection, until Rick is in custody. Amira searched his face, looking for any hint of deception. Found none, just absolute, unwavering certainty. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Protecting me? Protecting everyone? You could have run. Dominic was quiet for a moment. Then, because I'm tired of people dying for my family's sins, and because... He hesitated. Because you're risking everything to save strangers. The least I can do is protect you while you do it. Something shifted in Amira's chest. Something profound and frightening and undeniable. Trust. She wiped her eyes, nodded, and turned back to the tablet. Then let's finish this. For the next 6 minutes, they worked in perfect synchronization. Amira coded. Dominic relayed information from Vincent about passenger oxygen levels. When her hands cramped, he steadied the tablet. When she needed a wire held in place while she tested connections, he held it without question. The space was so narrow that they moved around each other like dancers, anticipating each other's movements, finding a rhythm. And slowly, the impossible became possible. The decoy pathway held. The AI remained fooled. The oxygen systems responded to her commands. I've got it, Amira breathed. I've actually got control. How long until you can override completely? 2 minutes, maybe 3. Dominic smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him. You're amazing. Before she could respond, the cabin lights died. Emergency red flooded the space, and the oxygen shut off completely. The decoy signal worked for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Then the AI detected the reroute and retaliated. Cabin lights died. Emergency red flooded the space. The oxygen shut off completely. Passengers screamed, gasped, clawed at overhead compartments. Amira's screen went black. No, she slammed the tablet. It locked me out. Dominic grabbed the intercom. Everyone stay seated. Slow breaths. Conserve what's in your lungs. But panic spread faster than instructions. People stood, shoved. A man pushed past Mrs. Martin. Vincent caught her, eased her back. Easy, ma'am. Captain Ross tried to maintain order. This is temporary. Stay calm. In row 10, baby Oliver started to cry, thin, desperate sounds. His mother looked at Dominic, pleading, Please, he can't breathe. Dominic didn't hesitate. He grabbed his oxygen mask and placed it over the infant's face. What are you doing? Amira shouted from the rear. You'll pass out. Fix the system. His voice was already strained. Dominic, just do it. She stared at him. This man sacrificing his own heir for a stranger's child. Motivational, inspirational, impossible to ignore. 30 seconds passed. Dominic's vision blurred. His lungs burned. He kept the mask on Oliver. 45 seconds. His knees buckled. Vincent caught him. But not yet. Amira's fingers flew, rerouting, bypassing, praying. Come on, please, please. 60 seconds. Oliver stopped crying, breathed steadily. Dominic's eyes rolled back. Dominic! The oxygen hissed back on. All at once, every valve, every row. Passengers sobbed, clutched each other. Dominic collapsed. Vincent eased him into a seat. Oliver's mother pressed her hand to his shoulder, tears streaming. Thank you so much. Captain Ross checked his pulse. Breathing, shallow but steady. Sarah brought water. Here, Dominic's eyes fluttered open, focused on Oliver, now content in his mother's arms, safe. Amira pushed through the crowd, dropped beside him. You almost died, she whispered, voice breaking. So did he. His voice was hoarse. It wasn't really a choice. Amira stared at him and understood. This is who he is beneath everything. She helped him sit up, hands gentle on his shoulders. Stay here, I'm ending this. She stood, turned toward the compartment, and the AI spoke, colder than ever. Amira Lewis, you were warned. Your grandmother's address has been forwarded. Amira froze, then ran. Amira locked herself in the engineering compartment. No time for fear, no time for doubt. One chance. The tablet screen flickered on. She accessed the root directory, bypassing every security protocol, and found it buried in the malware's source code. Author R. Hale. Install date 11/19/2025. Objective: retrieve evidence, eliminate witness. Communication: live audio feed. Rick Hale, Dominic's cousin. The AI wasn't just code, it was Rick, watching, listening, controlling. She opened the communication log. The malware had been transmitting live audio from the cabin since takeoff. Every word, every scream, everything. The speakers crackled, not the synthetic voice this time, but human, low, cold. Hello, cousin. Dominic stood in the aisle, staring at the ceiling. Rick, I have to admit, you're more resilient than expected. Sacrificing yourself for a baby? Very inspirational, very noble. Rick's laugh was bitter. But it ends now. The plane is descending. In 8 minutes, you'll crash into the Rockies. No survivors, no evidence, just a tragic mechanical failure. Dominic's jaw tightened. You'd kill 40 innocent people? I'd kill 100. Rick's voice was casual. That's the difference between us, Dom. You think mercy is strength. I know it's weakness. You murdered Eli. I eliminated a liability. He was going to talk to the feds, to you. I couldn't allow that. He was family. Family is a transaction. He broke the terms. Dominic closed his eyes, exhaled slowly. When he spoke again, his voice was ice. You're right, mercy is a weakness, which is why you're getting none. Silence. Then Rick laughed, sharp, bitter. The FBI? Even if you land, even if you hand over that drive, I have connections, lawyers, judges. You'll never touch me. Maybe not. Dominic looked toward the engineering compartment, toward Amira. But she will. Rick's laughter died. The engineer? She's smarter than both of us combined, and you just gave her everything. Your voice, your name, your confession. Live audio transmission, Rick. every word recorded in the system logs, legally admissible. A pause. Then Rick's voice, cold and final. Then you all die together. The plane lurched, nose down, hard. Passengers screamed. Luggage flew. Captain Ross fought the controls. I've lost manual override. The system's forcing a dive. Sarah grabbed the intercom. Everyone brace, heads down. Vincent moved through rows, helping passengers secure themselves. Mrs. Martin, Oliver's mother, everyone. Amira braced against the panel, fingers still flying. Dominic, she shouted over the roar. I need someone to hold the auxiliary power line. If I cut the main circuit, the failsafe triggers, unless someone grounds it manually. Coming, he staggered toward the rear, fighting the angle. Vincent grabbed his arm. Boss, let me. No, keep these people alive. That's an order. Vincent's jaw worked, then he nodded. Dominic entered the compartment. The plane shook violently, descent accelerating. Amira pointed to a thick cable, exposed and sparking. Hold this with your bare hands. Don't let go no matter what. Will it hurt? Yes. Dominic removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, wrapped both hands around the cable. The current hit him like lightning, pain, white-hot, bone-deep, all-consuming. Dominic's vision went dark, his muscles locked, teeth ground together until he tasted blood. Electricity coursed through him, demanding he let go. He didn't, for Eli, for these people, for her. Amira worked frantically, rerouting circuits, severing the malware's connection. 10 seconds, hold on. Dominic couldn't answer, couldn't breathe. His hands locked around the cable, white-knuckled, trembling. The plane shook harder. Altitude alarms screaming. 3,000 feet, 2,500, 2,000. Captain Ross's voice. Maximum dive angle, if we don't pull up in 30 seconds. Almost there. 20 seconds. 15. Dominic's knees gave out. He dropped, still holding the cable, body convulsing. Dominic, please. 10 seconds. Amira hit execute. The system crashed. For 3 seconds, silence. No AI, no Rick, no malware. Just engines and wind. Then lights came on. Normal white. Oxygen flowed steady. The nose began to lift. Captain Ross fought the controls, muscles straining. Slowly, slowly, the plane leveled. 1,000 feet. Holding, climbing. The cabin erupted in relieved screams. Dominic collapsed. The cable fell. Amira caught him, eased him down, checking his pulse, his breathing, the angry burns across his palms. You're okay, she whispered. We're okay. His eyes opened, met hers. Did we? We did. She smiled through tears. We did. Vincent appeared. Emergency landing authorized. Denver International. 8 minutes. Amira nodded, still holding Dominic's burned hands. You held on, she said softly. Had to. His voice was raw. Someone was counting on me. She looked at him, this man who'd given his oxygen, his body, his freedom, and felt something crack open in her chest. Not just trust, love, the kind that grows in crisis, the kind that says, I see who you are, and I choose you. Amira, save it for the ground. She pressed a finger gently to his lips. He smiled, nodded, and held her hand all the way down. The plane touched down in Denver at 6:47 p.m. Fire trucks lined the runway. FBI vehicles blocked every exit. Captain Ross stopped Flight 909 with decades of precision. Sarah opened the doors. Vincent exited first, followed by Mrs. Martin, Oliver and his mother, the businessman, every passenger, all alive. Paramedics swarmed Dominic. checked vitals, loaded him onto a gurney. "I can walk." "Sir, you were electrocuted and oxygen deprived. You're not walking." Amira stayed beside him, one hand on his shoulder. Federal agents approached, badges out. "Dominic Hale?" He nodded. "You're under arrest for racketeering and conspiracy." Dominic didn't resist, held out his burned hands. The agent cuffed him carefully. "You have the right to remain silent." "I'm waiving that." Dominic looked at Vincent. "Give them the drive." Vincent pulled it from his jacket, transferred quietly during the chaos, and handed it to the lead agent. "Everything you need is there. Transactions, communications, proof that Richard Hale ordered murder and installed malware on this aircraft." The agent examined it. "This is encrypted. Password is 0814-2001, Eli's birthday." Dominic's voice was steady. "There's also a full recording of Rick's confession in the plane's system logs." All eyes turned to Amira. She nodded. "I can extract the audio within an hour. Full chain of custody, legally admissible." A female agent stepped forward. "We'll need your statement and those logs." "You'll have them." Amira looked at Dominic. "All of them." The paramedics wheeled him toward the ambulance. "Wait." They stopped. Dominic looked back at Amira, standing there exhausted but eyes bright. "Amira." She walked over, knelt beside the gurney. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for trusting me when you had no reason to." "You gave me reasons." She glanced at his bandaged hands. "Many of them." He almost smiled. "I'm going to prison. Probably. For a long time. Maybe. Or maybe the FBI will see that you sacrificed everything to protect innocent people. Maybe you'll get a second chance." "You think I deserve one?" Amira was quiet. Then, "I think you earned one." His breath caught. She leaned closer, voice dropping. "When you get out, whether that's 6 months or 6 years, find me." "How?" "Flight 909, seat 14C. She smiled. "I'll keep it warm." Dominic stared at her, at this woman who'd seen him at his worst and found something worth saving. "That's a long time to hold a seat." "Good thing I'm patient." The paramedics moved again, but Dominic held her gaze until the ambulance doors closed. Amira stood on the tarmac, watching the lights disappear into the Denver night. Feeling something she hadn't felt in years, hope, 3 months later. Amira stood in Denver airport, watching planes take off through wide glass windows. Morning light painted the sky gold and pink, the kind of dawn that felt like a promise. She'd quit the airline, too many nightmares, but she'd started her own firm, cybersecurity for aviation systems. Airlines hired her to find vulnerabilities, patch systems, ensure Flight 909 never happened again. Meaningful work, important work. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. Parole hearing approved, reduced sentence for cooperation, out in 6 weeks. Thought you'd want to know. Amira's heart kicked. She typed back, "I'll be there, and 14C is waiting." 3 dots appeared. "I don't deserve you." She smiled. "Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway." A pause. "Thank you for everything. Thank you for holding on." She looked at the departures board. Her Atlanta flight was boarding. Back to Dorothy, who called every day to make sure Amira was safe, was healing. Dorothy had sent a card last week. "The best love stories aren't about perfect people. They're about broken people who choose to mend together. I think you found one. Don't let him go." Amira had cried reading it, and promised herself she wouldn't. 6 weeks, 42 days. Then she'd see if love could truly redeem, if trust could rebuild what violence broke, if a man from organized crime and an engineer could find something real. She boarded, found her seat. 14C across the aisle sat empty, not empty, waiting. As the plane lifted off, Amira closed her eyes and thought about that narrow compartment, the howl of wind, the feeling of his hand in hers. Dominic Hale had taught her something. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to hold on even when your hands are burning. It's protecting the vulnerable even when it costs everything. It's believing in redemption even when the world says you don't deserve it. When Dominic walked out of prison, she'd be there, not because she was naive, but because she'd seen his present and believed in his future. That empty seat wasn't just a symbol, it was a destination, and she was ready. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in second chances and the power of redemption. Tell me in the comments, do you think love can truly change us? Can two broken people really mend together? I'd love to hear your thoughts and your own stories of second chances. Until next time, dear friends, safe travels, and may you always find your way home to the people who matter most.